Hi guys, it's Paul back with another video. So in this video I thought I would do something different than usual, which I normally do based around mortise. So I thought I would do something more focused on cylinders. Now there's various different ways and different methods, and this is again just a small selection of tools that I have. I'm not going to go through the whole range because I've done something similar with the mortise tools, but you'll get the picture. So I have a selection of 2-in-1 type picks, which are in the GJ range. However, there is other companies that make their variation. There's not many companies. I think there's only a couple. But this is the tools that I use. So therefore, these are what's going to be used for the purpose of this video. Now, there's a lot of questions I get asked with cylinder picking. And most of the time that question is, what's better, single pin picking or the GJ type tool, the 2-in-1 particular tool? Now again, as with anything in locksmithing and probably in every trade, it's going to be down to the fact of what is your preference, how, you know, what is it you're looking to achieve, what is your budget, what is basically what is your end goal. Now for me, it's all about making my life easier, you know, and I'm happy to spend money and invest money in myself, in my business, because ultimately I want to ensure that I've got every option and avenue covered to ensure that I'm not going to be caught out or limit the chances of me being caught out with stuff. So the cylinders that we're looking at are going to be of the Dimple type. There's a whole, as I say, an array, and what I'll do is I'll put in the description the various Dimple picks in the GJ range if you've got an interest in it, rather than pile it all in a video. But if there's an interest for it, if you make the comment in the comment section, and then maybe I'll do a set video just purely on going for all of the 2-in-1 type picks. Now, what people often ask, why are these called 2-in-1 picks? A lot of people associate 2-in-1 picks with let me grab one. I should have, to be honest guys, a lot of these videos I just do off the cuff. I don't really plan them, because that way it just keeps it raw. Okay, often when people think of 2-in-1 picks, this is what they think of. So like a safe type pick. Okay, now there is 2-in-1 type picks for cylinders. So this is the single pin picks, or SPP for short, single pin picks. Okay, now most of you will probably be familiar with these. They crop up everywhere, and to be fair, they're not a bad pick. I've done another video on my cylinder picks, my collection, so if you've not seen that, I won't go into too much details in this video, but there is a video where I talk about all of the cylinder picks that I do own. This is a set that I use out in the field when I don't have a dedicated pick. Okay, now a 2-in-1 type pick, let me get one out of here. Actually what I need to do is get a handle. Okay, so these are essentially this, and that is essentially them. Okay, now a lot of people wonder how are they exactly the same. So this is in 2 parts. Okay, that's the easiest way to explain it. There's our 2 parts. Them exact same parts, get that way around, is that. Okay, that is the simplest way to explain these tools. Okay, so people do say, oh, they prefer this method over this method because these are a lot easier to fill. But when you break it down, these are exactly the same. Okay, and what I mean by that is when we apply tension to a cylinder, okay, we put one of these in, or something of something. This is, you know, extremely long and you probably wouldn't use that, but for the purpose of the video, we would tension the lock like that possibly, or we would tension it from that point, you know, whatever your preference is. And then we would go in with our pick and manipulate the pins to get the lock open. Okay, When it comes to the 2-in-1 type picks, we're doing exactly the same thing. However, when we insert this into the lock, that is now our equivalent of a tension wrench. So we're applying tension, which is traveling through the blade, through the plug, and we're putting on a clockwise or anti-clockwise directional force, enable for us to manipulate them pins now. Okay. Now, this part is our picking wire. Now, if you compare the two of these, they're not going to look exactly the same, but you now start to see that they have a similar setup in that they're both like a flag pick. Now, potentially, I've not tried it, what we could do is tension there, then using this portion of the pick, we could go in and start to pick the lock, because that is a pick. That is essentially that. Okay. Where it becomes a 2-in-1 is where you take two tools, separate tools, and you combine them. We now have 2-in-1. Okay. That in brief is what it is, which is the same as this. This one is our tensioner. This one is our tensioner because it's tensioning the talon, and this one is our lever picker. So it becomes a 2-in-1. That's where they get their names from. So what I thought I would do in the video is sort of just go through the discussions and pick some on video. As I said, when you first get into locksmithing, you're probably not going to invest money in this side at the beginning. You're probably more than likely going to take the cheapest route, which is going to be buying these types of picks, and there's nothing wrong with that. The more you get proficient with these, the easier these will become. The more practice you get on with these, the better these will become. So they complement each other, and that's the best way to look at it. Now, these are investments, okay? Now, there's going to be people say, I don't need them. As I've already said, I've got them and I'll pick these open, and that's absolutely fine. But these are for convenience, and I'll go through some of the other reasons of why these are popular. But when I hear that, you know, it makes me think, you know, you could imply that to everything. You know, we have vehicles to get us around because it makes our life easier. You know, by saying not having these or tools of this design is like saying, you know, you don't need a van to go and do your jobs. You can just get on a bus or walk to your job. We have the vehicle because it makes our life easier. It's not exactly a necessity. It's more of a luxury, in all honesty, you know. So that's how I look at these sort of things, you know. That's the simplest way that I feel to get that point across, is these can be looked at as a luxury item, but they are for convenience, speed, and everything else. Now, when I first got into locksmithing, this is where I dedicated all of my time, was in cylinder picking. And then once I become proficient with that, then I moved on to the mortise side. But learning the art of cylinder picking is helpful when you go to mortise picking, because they're relying on the same techniques in terms of you're finding a binding pin, you're relaying the information that you're getting back through feedback of the tools in how is that pin set, is it anti-pick or a spool. You're taking all of them elements and you're reading them and interpreting them in how to manipulate that lock open. Okay, so I still go back to these when I don't have a particular tool in the range that I can go to and use these methods. So I still keep my hand in the 2-in-1, in the single pin picking range. And as I say, I've got multiple different picks, but for the purpose of this video, because of the colours, I thought they stand out a little bit better and it'd be a little bit easier to sort of show on camera. Now, the benefits of this tool, okay, everything is in a fixed position. You haven't got to concentrate on holding a tension wrench with your left or your right hand, then picking with the other hand. Although you're still applying tension and using both hands, everything is just fixated. There's no, you can't change other than the in and out position of the picking tip and the amount of rotational force that you're applying to the lock. And because everything is combined, the feedback you get through the picking wire, you feel through the body. And again, the pressure and the tension that you're applying to the lock helps you in feeling the pins. So having them mounted together, in my opinion, gives you better feedback than these. Okay. Now the other benefits with this, as I've already stated, you've got your markings, your spacings. So these will tell you, as long as you've got this tool calibrated and you've not made mental adjustments, you will know roughly, well, pretty much accurately in all fairness, whereabouts and what pin you are on. Okay. So that's the added benefit of using these. Everything is condensed down. Everything is that much easier to read. Everything is fixated. You've got a nice equal amount of tension being applied throughout the whole plug, as opposed to just at the front end when you use a normal tension wrench. Okay. Now the other benefit of these tools is when you're, let me get a different cylinder in view. Okay. When you're picking a thumb turn cylinder and some other cylinders with different offsets, picking the plug will not necessarily engage the cam. Okay. Now the cam is what actually opens a door. The plug is just part of the process in order to allow that cam to rotate. Now when you single pin pick, if you've not engaged that cam, that plug will just rotate and that will just stay where it is and it won't do nothing. So when you're single pin picking, okay, when you're using this sort of method, you then either at the beginning have to apply a force through the lock to engage it, or when the cylinder plug is partially rotated, you're then going to have to use tension wrenches or cut down keys, etc., to compress that, to rotate it, to allow that cam to rotate. So that's where there's a little bit more inconvenience with single pin picking, but again, once you're confident, it's not, you know, it's not like it's not doable. The other thing when you're single pin picking, especially on dimple cylinders, what happens on traditional type cylinders as well, the opening in the plug, when you're rotating that tool, then bottom pins can fire up and trap it. Now there's not exactly any hardship, you need to pull them all down, but again, it's just all little inconveniences. Whereas when you use this type of tool, when that's inserted into the lock, that allow you to fully rotate the tool, keeping them bottom pins down. You know, it might not seem a lot, but when you're working on a door, all of these little bits and pieces mount up to make life a lot easier. Now again, when you're doing single pin picking, you have to be careful when you're tensioning the lock, okay? Because the edge of your tension wrenches, you want to make sure that they're not dragging on the outer wall, or the inner wall, I should say, really, but of the outer portion of the housing, okay? If that's in there and it's digging into the lock, the edge of that is biting into the plug, which is going to put resistance and make picking a little bit awkward, okay? And it's also depend upon your tension wrench, whether it slips round or it's allowing you to get the right amount of tension. Now this particular tension wrench probably wouldn't be that great in a real life situation because it's so long that it'd probably be hitting door frames and being a nuisance. So you probably use a much shorter one or a different style of tension wrench, but just for the purpose of this video, that's why I'm showing this. So what I'll do is I'll do a bit of a demo on an opening. So let's do the ISAO first then. I call it ISAO, but it's the R6 6-pin cylinder. When I was in London, these weren't very common, to be fair, but since I've lived in Wales, I've come across these quite often. Okay, so I'm going to use this tension wrench. I'm going to go in and apply my tension. So we use the silver one. Okay, so that's my flag of choice. Now, as you can see, I'm having to use this hand to tension that separately. I'm going through and feeling down the plug, looking for the binding pin. So I might go quiet in parts of this video just because I'm trying to concentrate and get a feel. Right, we had a nice little click on that pin. 1, 2's binding, 3, 4, 5. I'm not liking that one. It's not feeling too. I'll reset that. I'm going to go in with the red one, so the flag's just a little bit wider. We need to reset that. That's it. Okay. So as you can see, it's, you know, I've had to do a little bit more faffing when you're using this method, but it's, each lock is going to be different. You know, once you know what picks you're going to use for what lock, then you'll go straight to your case and get them out. But in all honesty, I didn't pre-record this or prep for it, because I think sometimes it's just nice to see war footage. No, it's not really liking that, so I might have to change the tension wrench. Right, we had a little click then. Right, we had a nice big kick then. Okay, so that plug has had a nice big rotational element to it now. So now what I'm doing is I'm going through, finding, right, a nice click there, the pins that are giving me the most resistance, so pin 6, and I've lost the, okay, so now we're back to pin 1, and there we go. Okay, so it took a little bit of time. It's more than acceptable, so it's not the end of the world. So this is what I mean. Okay, when you use this type of tool, what will happen is we get to there, and that's now locked in place. Now that won't hold the pins down. There's various different things that you can do. Okay, go in, and that's allowed us to reset it. Not the end of the world, literally takes a couple of seconds. But again, it's just little inconveniences that you get from this. Whereas when you have the luxury of these types of picks, you don't necessarily have that. Okay, so just move that out of the way for a second, drop this down, and then we'll go for the 2-in-1 pick. Okay, so I'm going to go in, I'm going to apply my tension, and then just work my way through really, really lightly. Not getting much in the way of feedback in that direction, so I'm going to go back. We're going to pick it in that direction. Right, nice little click there. And this is what you will get with all these types of locks, is, you know, you'll find one side is more preferable to being picked than the other side. But the good thing with these cylinders is they can be plug spun. Not all cylinders can be plug spun, but the ones that I've got here today can be. Right, nice little click there. Big kick there. Okay, and the good thing is, because it's all combined, I'm feeling everything through here, and because everything's in close proximity, nice click there. It just feels so much nicer in the hand. Right, I can feel that that pin definitely needs to be picked. That one jams solid. Okay. And there we go. Much quicker and easier because everything is set out here. Okay. That's why I prefer to use these, but it's just going to be down to personal preference. You don't have to use these, you don't have to own them, you don't have to buy them. It's just going to be personal preference. And to show you that lock still works. Okay. Actually, I'll show you the bitting. So you've got a mixed bag of bitting in there, highs, real lows, and a mixture at the back end as well. Okay. Now moving on. So the cylinder in this padlock is actually a Brisant D. So it's what became the Ultian essentially. This is an Ultian that hasn't been beefed up. It's prior to it being beefed up, but the pins are pretty much the same. And I just thought it'd be nice to sort of see it in a different, rather than a Euro or rim cylinder, we do it in a padlock. Okay, so we turn the key. So you can only tension this clockwise, and then we pull the pin out, and then we have our opening. So we'll go for the picks. We'll take that one and give it a try with the silver handle one. So apply my tension. I'm just going to work through slowly, as always. Get a feel for the lock first. Right, I've got resistance there, a little click and a little bit of rotation on the plug. So I'm not trying to force anything up at this moment in time. I just want to go through and check all 6 pins, find which ones are binding, which are giving me the feedback I'm looking for. A little click on 2. One's giving me a little bit of resistance. Little click there. Might be not enough tension. Now it looks like I'm putting an excessive amount of tension through there, but remember that tension wrench is really long and it's thin as well, so there's not actually a lot of tension going through that bar. Okay, I'm going to reset that. I'm not getting much from that there. Right. Okay, so click out of 6, 5, 4, 3's give me a bit of resistance. Little click on 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A little bit of extra lift on 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bit of a lift on 2. Bit of a click on 1. 3, 4. Alright, click out of 5 and a little bit of rotation. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, that's on 5, a little tiny little click. 6 binding again. Right, I've gone into a deep full set there. So now we just need to find the one that's giving the counter rotation. It feels like it's 5. There we go. Okay. Now again, that's not a bad opening. Bearing in mind I'm talking as I'm doing it as well. Take the tension handle off that. We'll take our Ultian pick. Okay, so again we've got our 6 spacer rings, so we're going to know exactly where we are. Our tension is going to be applied through the tool, and then we're just going to manipulate each of the pins. Now this is actually a €0.5 in here, and the pins are pushing down. Okay, so make sure we're fully in. Let me take that tension wrench, put it on this side so I can keep my hands out of the way. Okay, and then let's go. So with these, you're not really having to do much in the way of thinking. You're not trying to balance a tension wrench, make sure it's not in binding or digging into the plug. you're not having to move your wire around to make sure you're getting onto the pins, because the wire is always going to be where it needs to be. In terms of the tip of that wire is always going to be in line with the center of the pins. It's just a matter of you directing it to get to the center point of the pin in order for it to be depressed. Nice click on pin 6. It's not helping the angle I'm stood at in a minute. Nice click on pin 2, I think that was. Nice click on 3, the tools drop slightly. Getting counter rotation, and then we have our open. Okay, so now you can see why my preference is these, but you know, I can't reiterate enough that I find these make my life easier. Okay, no, they're not a necessity. Yes, you've seen that both can be picked with these, as with any cylinder can be picked with these, but with these everything is just set up ready for you to go. So again, it's a case of you weighing up, buying cheap, putting in a lot of practice and modifying your picks, because some locks, what you'll find is you'll put your tension wrench in, okay, whether it be this style, if this one will fit in there. Okay, so it does go in slightly, but there's a bit of slop, so you've got to account for that. Then when you're picking, sometimes you're going to have to be moving the pick over this side to get round any sort of pins. You've got to compensate for the walding. Whereas this type of tool, what I like is it just goes in, okay, it's in now. You don't have to move left or right, you just apply your rotational force and just backwards and forwards on the pins. So there's a lot more investment in this side of it, okay? These are lock specific, but some of them open more than one lock. Like this one will do the Brisant D, it will do the Ultian, it will do the new WXM. So you're not having to own 3 picks, you only need to own the one. Isaiah R6 is just one lock specific, but there is possible other brands that are using the same platform and the same keyway that this would go into. The same with Garrison, etc, etc. They all have their own blades typically, but some of these tools open more than one lock. So you could just start with buying the ones that are most common. Now Ultian, I think for anyone over the next, I mean it's already happening now and it's been happening for a good while, but essentially these, everyone is going to come across these. These are going to be like the era fortress of the mortise world because of the door manufacturers fitting these in. So these will be something that you will be cropping up against. You've got these to practice with, then you've got that as a backup later on if you wish to purchase one, or you know, but as I say, there's other brands out there. It's your choice, it's your money. But I just wanted to give a bit of an insight into my thought process and why I choose the turn 1 type picks, and I still keep my hand involved in these because there is locks where these tools ain't available, so you have to rely on this method. But it's about, these are super cheap, but they require a lot more skill than these to some degree. You still have to understand the picking process with each of these tools, but with these it's about your placement and the feel, etc. with these, whereas this has kind of limited that, so you don't have to think about it. So there's, again, pluses and minuses. This is old school and it's always nice to do old school. Obviously this is new school, but it's just one of them things that makes my life easier, and that's what I'm all about, and investing in myself and my business. So hopefully you found this video interesting. So please like, share and subscribe. hit the notification bell if you wish to see any more of the upcoming videos. And I've noticed you get a lot of people watching the videos who are not subscribed, and that's fine. I appreciate the views and I appreciate the good feedback. But obviously, if you wish to see more videos, please put some comments in the bottom of ideas that you might have that you wish to see. I have got a video that I have recorded, which is a tool bag teardown. And that's basically me going through my tool bags that I use, and just sort of showing my sort of kit that I carry, and even my tool bag that is just my general go-to bag, which is like your hammers, chisels and screwdrivers. I mean, that may be of interest to some people, I don't know, but we'll see. So thanks for watching, guys, and stay humble.